Trade after trade, day after day, you're making thousands of dollars Memecoin trading. Then suddenly, 1 week, you lose $15,000. This is exactly what happened to me, and I'm gonna be going over how you guys can actually avoid these mistakes that I made. Now, yes, this isn't normal. My confidence was at an all-time high, and I was making some of the craziest profits in my life. But obviously, this is where it all went wrong. And that's why I wanna go over how you guys can actually avoid these mistakes I made, and therefore you can become a profitable trader. Now, first off, as you guys could see, in the week, I was up $4,000 and I ended up being down $4,000. So in about 2 days, I lost $10,000 and we've bounced back a little bit since then. And basically, I wanna go over the mistakes that I made and how you guys can actually avoid these with yourself. Now, yes, obviously we all know there's risk with trading meme coins, but some of these mistakes are just so simple that I feel like all of us should know them, but we just don't think about them. So now the first mistake is over trading. I'm gonna pull up some of the trades that I lost the most money on and explain why. Now, as you guys can see, some of my biggest losses were on Drift, Pair, and Pizza Live. So why did these lose me the most money? It's because I was chasing trades over and over, day after day. And you can clearly see that I was chasing more than half of these trades. Now, the main thing that screwed me was this live trend meta. But obviously, I'm not gonna blame this for me taking these massive L's. So for the first example, as you can see, I overtraded this chart. And although I literally made around 2 Solana, I chased this trade and I actually ended up losing 5 Solana, which is around $1.2 thousand. Now, obviously compared to my bigger wins, like this $5.2 thousand trade I made, this doesn't seem like that much. But the big issue is that I kept on consistently getting these L's. Trade after trade, I'm losing 700, 800, 1,000, 1.2, 1.2. And the thing is, I was chasing my trades and I wasn't following my strategy. This can be one of the biggest mistakes as a trader, is you not following your strategy. Now, you can watch one of these videos if you don't have a strategy yet, and you actually can learn your own strategy. But as you guys can see, this is how I actually ended up losing most of my money. Now, the second is actually chasing trades. Now, revenge trading is a huge thing where you basically try to trade over and over to make back money you just lost. But what this can cause is emotional trading, and therefore you can lose so much more money. Now, I think we can all agree that we all get FOMO and we all trade with emotions many times. And that's exactly what revenge trading is. It's trading with emotions. Now, Drift would be a great example of this. As you guys can see with Drift, I kept on chasing the trade and just ended up losing a bunch of money. Now, what do I mean by chasing the trade or revenge trading? If you look over at my screen, you can see that I had an amazing entry right here, and then I had a pretty decent entry right here again. But sadly, the chart just didn't go in my favor and I had to sell for a loss. But what was the issue? I was basically getting FOMO of this coin and trying to enter at horrible market caps that just don't stick with my strategy. I was entering at 200,000, and these are just revenge trades of me trying to make back the money I've lost. Now, one of the biggest ways you guys can lose money is trading with emotions. So what I would recommend is have a written strategy that you know in your mind. And for example, one of my strategies is usually I enter at anything below 50,000 on many coins. And then a second thing is don't revenge trade. So as you guys could see, I enter again twice, and then once again, I sell for a loss. Now, I know you may be looking at this chart and being like, oh, you sold the bottom. Why would you do that? When the trade is actually happening and the chart's going down, you trade with emotion, especially when you're down this much money. Now, this is one of my biggest losses in a while. As you guys can see, I lost 8 Solana, and this is a total of $2,000 that I lost, sadly. So obviously the second lesson is to not revenge trade and don't trade with emotions or FOMO into coins. And now the third one is to always make sure that the coin isn't a scam. Now, this may sound really obvious, but there's a couple of easy things you can look at to notice if it's a scam or not. Now, there's obviously things like this coin, which I bought into and ended up only losing around 1 Solana. But this was a bad coin to buy because the tweet was actually deleted. What this leads to is basically the coin going to zero because the whole narrative has been deleted about the coin. And I could say this about almost every single coin. If it is deleted or rugged, then the coin will almost never go up. So this is another great example. You could clearly see this coin was a pump and dump, but where I made the mistake is re-entering even though I knew there was a bundle. If I come down to the trades, you could see that I enter over here and instantly I have some people sell on my head. So literally right as I entered and bought around 3 Solana, I had about 5 Solana sell on top of my head. And I easily could have dodged this mistake by going to holders and checking all the top holders. Let me actually show you a live example of a coin you probably wouldn't want to buy. So this coin right here, for example, as you guys can see, he has a bunch of snipers and fresh wallets in the holders. There's not only a 6% holder, but then there's him, which is a 4% holder. And then all these little symbols mean that these people have bought at the exact same time. Now obviously this doesn't mean 100% that these are all the same person, but it's a very high percent chance. And the reason is because all these wallets either bought in the same transaction or the same exact second. And honestly, with meme coin trading, that's pretty uncommon unless the coin is super high volume or it's just the same person buying on multiple wallets. And this is something that can just absolutely screw you over if you aren't checking these simple things. So before you buy a coin, make sure that you're always checking the holders and make sure you're checking down the token info. Now to trade, I use Axiom because they show you all this information very easily over here in token info and in holders. They even give you this handy bubble chart where you can refresh it. And if you see wallets like this, then you most likely want to stay away from the coin. Now, one extra bonus tip is to go in with how much you're comfortable losing. And obviously I didn't do that with many of these coins. The thing is that I put way too much money into these coins. And obviously I was putting too much to the point where when I lost, it was way more than I was gonna make. Now, obviously the higher risk, the higher profits you could actually make. But for example, this coin that was only at 30K, I put in 15 Solana. And honestly, that's just way too much. Obviously, if it went to the upside, then I would be making profit, but people can see that I'm buying this much. So what this could lead to is me becoming exit liquidity. And instead of the coin reversing, then it starts to dump. So a way you can actually dodge this, or basically don't have people sell on your buys, is to buy with much less amount. Let's say your portfolio is 10 Solana. You do not want to put 5 Solana into a coin. You want to enter the coin with something like 1 or 2 Solana. And basically this makes your risk much lower. But obviously when trading meme coins, you're kind of going for, 3 to 10x's. And if you do struggle with finding these 10x coins, well then make sure you guys join my free Telegram. And I'll actually be releasing a 3+ hour course in there very soon. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I hope you learned something so that you guys can minimize your losses in the future. Have a good day.